Christ is continually working in us and working to continue to make us more like him and to bring us closer to him, because I've definitely seen a big evolution in my faith over the years.
Today's episode of Candid Conversation series is a very special one because this person that I'm about to introduce had the biggest influence on my decision to start a YouTube channel. Gillian Perkins is an author, she's a successful entrepreneur and a dynamic businesswoman. As a child, Gillian began attending school. However, upon reaching second grade, things began to change. Gillian was soon frustrated with the confines of school and the social pressures, so at age 8, Gillian dropped out of second grade. And through a series of manipulative complaints, she convinced her parents that school was simply not the place for her. And for reasons of their own, her parents complied, allowing her to leave the classroom. The next 2.5 years were a struggle as Gillian and her mom experienced controversies over curriculum choices, study schedules, and performance qualifiers. Now, by the time she was in grade 5, the situation came to a halt and her parents let Gillian have her own way. She was allowed to choose her own curriculum, set her own schedules, and choose her own activities. And of course, she chose horseback riding, piano, and orchestra. And throughout her childhood, Gillian launched a number of entrepreneurial ventures, her first being at the age 7, and by the time she was 14, she started her first solid business. Now, Gillian helps hundreds and thousands of online entrepreneurs launch successful businesses and scale them through Startup Society. She's also a prolific content creator. Gillian and her husband live in Oregon. They have 3 little kids and baby number 4 on the way. So before I start off the questions, I just want to tell you how grateful I am for you for giving me the confidence to start my YouTube channel with your step-by-step action plans. You showed me what consistency is. I've been following your channel from the time I think you had about 12 to 14,000 subscribers, and now you have 350,000.
Yeah, well, thank you so much. I didn't know you'd been following me for that long. That's amazing.
Yes,
thank you.
I was, and it's just not only the growth in numbers, but to see the quality of your content grow and just seeing you as a person grow was just amazing. And you taught me what consistency is in showing up online. You know, there are days I don't want to record a video, you know. And then I think of you. Gillian is able to do it with 3 kids. It's like a kick in the pants. Come on, what are you doing?
But yep. Well, also, it's just hard work, right?
Yes, it is. But you went through 2 or 3 moves. You moved homes. And you went on a Europe trip for a couple of months. You had a baby. You started a new business. But in all this, you kept up your consistency. And that's pretty amazing. And it was really encouraging to see. And
well, thank you. I appreciate that a lot.
Yeah. And the courage that you gave me in just being in Startup Society, the action plans on that platform. I mean, I've been on other membership platforms. But just the quality of content on Startup Society is just exceptional. And I'm really grateful for that. Thank you.
That's really good to hear. I appreciate that. Yeah, thank you.
So what results do you help create for your clients? What is your business about? There are a lot of people who already know you on YouTube, but for people who are just getting to know you, introduce yourself.
So I run an online education company that teaches entrepreneurs how to start online businesses that give them the flexibility and freedom that they want, allowing them to work from home. Most often, I am teaching entrepreneurs how to start content-based businesses where they're running a blog or a YouTube channel, and then they're selling some sort of digital product. However, sometimes I work with entrepreneurs who have slightly different businesses, such as like a service-based business. And I do that through my YouTube channel and then through my blog on GillianPerkins.com. We also recently started a podcast called Work Less, Earn More. And then my flagship program is called Startup Society.
You've always, whenever you talked about your morning routines or things that are important to you, like especially the stuff that you do in the morning, you talk about reading your Bible, having that devotion time. Talk about how important faith is for you
and what kind of role does it play, and how does your faith actually motivate you in running this business?
Well, I've been a Christian for a pretty long time. I became a Christian as a child when I was about 8 years old, but one of the main things that I've learned through my life as a Christian has just been that Christ is continually working in us and working to continue to make us more like him and to bring us closer to him, because I've definitely seen a big evolution in my faith over the years, and it's taken on a much like deeper meaning for me as the years have gone on, as I have tested and tried my faith through all the different things I've been through the good things and the bad things. And honestly, sometimes it can be more challenging to go through the good things with your faith and continue to rely on and trust in God. Whereas when you come to those bad things, you immediately just like automatically cling to God. So yeah, I try to incorporate reading my Bible and prayer into every day. I do have, I would say, a very full schedule. And so I have to be very intentional to work those things in, because if I leave it to chance, then it's definitely something that, isn't eating, sleeping, or drinking, or keeping my children alive, or paying the bills. And so it's not one of those things that you have to do to keep breathing. And so that's why I have to be intentional, because it's something that's very, very important to me. But it's not going to happen if it doesn't get scheduled into my day. And so that's one of the main things that I would say notice if my days become more unstructured. Sometimes at first, when my days become more unstructured, it doesn't seem like anything's wrong. It's just like, oh, just going with the flow. And then I realize that along with that will come leaving out some important things, maybe leaving out exercise, maybe leaving out cooking as many healthy meals, and definitely leaving out spending as much time in the Word. So it's something I have to come back to time and time again. That's the only way that I'm able to maintain that. And then, did you have a second part to that question?
I asked, how important is your faith and how does it motivate you in your business?
That's an interesting question. I hadn't really thought about my faith motivating me in my business, but something I have been thinking about a lot lately was that I spend, a certain amount of time every day working, and then kind of the end goal for the work, right, is to be done with the work so that you can go and enjoy, some free time. And I was thinking about the fact that when I have this free time, I didn't really know what to do with it. And that not like I couldn't think of anything to do, but nothing that I could do with it really felt fulfilling. I could think of different activities, but they just didn't feel like they would fill me up. And so I thought about that, and I was thinking about how, as a Christian, we want to try to find our fulfillment in Christ, find our joy in Christ. And I did a little bit of a Bible study on that. And the conclusion I came to was that I really needed to be working on finding that fulfillment and that joy in Christ through whatever I was doing, including my work. And so rather than having work be just the means to the end of then getting to have the free time, I needed to find that motivation in the work by doing things as unto Christ, by doing things in a Christ-like way, by blessing people through the work that I'm doing, and by doing things with a standard that I'm doing everything like I'm serving Jesus.
That's right.
And so, so that's kind of where I've been finding my motivation lately through my faith. But like I mentioned before, it's a continual process of just working on, on deepening my faith and on letting go and letting God, work through me.
That's very interesting to hear, because I was just listening to a message, and the preacher said that Ruth Bell Graham, Billy Graham's wife, used to have this plaque on her kitchen window which said, "Holy services held here 3 times a day." It was over her sink, where she went there to do dishes 3 times a day. So it was holy to the Lord. It was worship to the Lord, and that's how she saw it. And I'm sure your business is helping so many people. I'm into my channel is Faith Channel. So you're helping me, which is indirectly helping a lot of people serve the Lord in their own capacities, whether it's bringing a product or, just teaching the word, whatever it is. So I'm sure you are doing your part in the kingdom of God.
Yeah, absolutely. And I do think this, though, that it is important that we focus on that and we do it intentionally. We don't just try to do good work and hope that it fulfills, that it glorifies God somehow, but that we are continually looking for ways to do that intentionally.
Mm-hmm. Sure. What other ministries are you or your family involved in?
So my family and I are very involved in our church, and I would say that right now in this season of having young children, where my primary ministry is really just ministering to my children, we are more participants. So we try to be at church very often, pretty much every Sunday and then multiple times a week for other activities. But we're not very involved in the ministry at church just because I do think it's important to prioritize my kids, and between work and then just ministering to my kids, I don't have that much more time in my schedule.
Absolutely. And I just heard your conversation with your husband this morning.
Oh, uh-huh.
Congratulations, baby number 4. My
Yeah, baby
goodness.
number 4. Yeah, I'm excited to have it finally out of the box. Is that the right expression? I don't know. I'm very bad at expressions, but you know what I mean. Because I'm more than halfway along at this point, and
Oh, wow.
we've been not sharing because I'm like pre-filming content for my maternity leave, and it would just make the timing very weird if I had told people I was pregnant earlier on. Then my pregnancy would have ended up seeming like 18 months because
Okay.
we're filming twice as much content. So I've waited this long so that my pregnancy will feel like a normal length of time from the outside. But I'm excited to have it out there so that I can talk about it more. I think it allows me to share more authentically when there's not something that I'm like keeping a secret. So it feels nice and light to finally have it out there.
That's amazing. I'm so happy for you. And it amazed me to see that you're handling so much and your body is changing, bringing a new life into the world. That's awesome. You've been an entrepreneur from the time you were 7 years old. I was going through your bio on Amazon that you had up for your book, Sorted. And I was just thinking, with starting stuff that young, and now you are here with such a huge business that you're running, you must have faced a bump or two, or maybe a lot. How do you face trials, and how does your faith actually help you? Or what's your mindset behind, maybe you planned something, you hired someone and it didn't go as you have planned? How do you handle that? And does faith play any role? Or what's your mindset behind facing a trial or facing a bump in the road?
Yeah. Okay. Well, first of all, let's not overstate. I don't want anyone to feel like they're behind because they weren't an entrepreneur when they were 7. My entrepreneurial ventures at 7 years old were nothing too grand, probably things that lots of people did, peddling my Easter candy to the neighbors and things like that. It wasn't until I was in high school that I started any sort of real business. And even then, it was kind of an accident that I started a business at all. As for how I deal with trials, because those certainly come in business, they are inevitable. Like, don't get into business, don't become an entrepreneur if you are not willing to face the trials and ready to face the trials, because they will be there. I wouldn't say that there are more trials than any other path that people might choose, though. They're just a different sort of trial. I would say if you're choosing to work for someone else, then you're going to have more ongoing small trials of, every month, maybe, living paycheck to paycheck sort of thing, or every day not having quite enough time because you're spending time commuting and spending so much time at a job. Whereas with entrepreneurship, it tends to be more up and down, to where you'll have some really good times and then some really bad times. And so something that I've noticed over the years of having some bad things happen, sometimes, a hire not working out, or, any number of things, is that most of the time having a bad thing happen, especially if it's contained in your business, not a personal tragedy, but a bad thing happening in your business, or something that costs you money, isn't typically difficult to deal with on a personal level, unless you get caught up in it yourself and you forget God's promises, and you forget the hope that you have in heaven, and even the promises that God has for us here on earth, that he's going to take care of us, and that nothing's going to happen to us that isn't part of his grand plan, and all that sort of thing. As long as I remain in the right mindset, problems, like I said, especially when they're contained to my business, really are not uncomfortable. But it's when I forget those promises of God that I find that even a small problem can be absolutely devastating. And there have certainly been some times over the past few years, especially as we were transitioning from one business to another. This is the time when I remember it was the most difficult. We were transitioning from one business to another, and I was basically spending the money on both businesses, and neither one was making very much money at that moment. And so I was just out of money, and it was extremely uncomfortable, both because it was starting to kind of burst the dam or break the dam between that contained in my business into my personal life, because it was seriously affecting my personal finances, but also because I was not holding on to God's promises. So yes, I was praying a whole lot, but my prayers were very, I would say, self-centered. They're very much like, oh no, God, what do I do? Instead of focused on trusting in God's promises and clinging to his sovereignty and to his power, really. That's something that I've been really leaning into lately. Is I've been reading through the Psalms and thinking and just like meditating on God's almightiness and finding a lot of comfort and joy in that.
Tell me, who is your inspiration? Is there somebody that inspired you through all this, especially in the business that you have right now? And my follow-up question also would be, do you have an inspirational character from the Bible? Talk about both.
Mm-hmm. Well, my first inspiration was definitely my dad. My dad was an entrepreneur, although I don't think that being an entrepreneur was like a large part of his identity, really. It was more just like a facet of like just a fact of how things worked. He's a landscape architect, and he used to work for a landscape agency, and then he ended up striking it out on his own and starting his own company. And that was my childhood, was just like watching him work for himself. And while my dad worked really hard and really long hours, which was never something I wanted, I don't feel like it had a negative effect on me really at all, because when he was there, which he was there regularly, even if it was for small amounts of time, I saw him every single day. And when he was there, the way he treated me was exceptional. Not to say that he spoiled me at all, but he was very consistently honest and understanding, and all those things that a father should be. And so I didn't really like see the fact that he worked a lot as a negative. Like I never really thought like, man, I wish my dad didn't work so much or anything like that. But what I did see was I noticed the positive, which was that if we wanted to take a trip or go, if he wanted to take a day off, he could. And so there was a lot of flexibility there. And so also just like having that modeled to me from a young age, it just made it seem very, very normal. So I didn't hear my dad ever talking about like his boss or I have to go to work or anything like that. So it just like seemed, what is normal is what you kind of end up expecting to do. And so that was the first model. And then later, this is a very different sort of model, but I started reading books about money and about success. And I remember one of the first ones I read was The 4-Hour Workweek. I read it like right around the time it came out. And I just found that very inspiring, just because it was so interesting. It was so different. It had so many interesting ideas in it, and it really got like the wheels in my mind turning, just with like the different possibilities. Because even though I thought that I probably wanted to work for myself, I also really thought that I wanted to go to college and was quite set on that. And my dad was kind of against it, actually, especially because I didn't have a specific like job that I wanted, that I needed to go to college for. And he tends to be a creative thinker and like look for alternative ways to, to get stuff done, which I think played a big role in, my,
I
and
could
how
see
I
that.
think about things. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
he definitely influenced me there. But anyway, so he didn't really want me to go to college, but I wanted to. But then I read that book and I read a few other books, and I just realized, man, there are some other options. Now, I still did go to college for a couple of years because I had a full ride scholarship for 2 years. So I just went and I tried out a whole bunch of things. And I'm glad that I did that, because I think if I hadn't done that, I definitely would have wondered, like, well, what if, maybe, what did I miss out on? But at the end of those 2 years, I still had no idea what sort of job I would want that college would possibly help me with. And I was also a little bit burned out with school because I had taken on a very heavy load of classes for those 2 years to take full advantage of my scholarship. So I was like, I need to at least take a break. And so I continued to read some books about different ideas. And so I would say Tim Ferriss was definitely a role model for me. And then I found Pat Flynn and Smart Passive Income. And that was really interesting to me because both because Pat talked about how his money was being made online, which I was very interested in the opportunity of making money online, of running an online business, but I really had no idea how people were actually making money. And he also shared his income reports, which I thought was really interesting because a lot of people weren't talking about how much money they made. And Pat was making far more money than I really thought was possible. And the reason for that was because I was looking at these different jobs I could get and from these different college majors, and then looking at the specs on the jobs, how much they pay per year. And, the highest paying job on the list probably claimed to earn you maybe $100,000 or 120. And then Pat comes out with his income reports, and he's talking about, at that time, he was probably earning $50,000 a month. And I was what? People can earn that much money? I didn't even know people could earn that much money. And so that was really interesting and exciting and continued to intrigue me. So he was another role model for me. And then you also asked about role models in the Bible. So I don't know if I have a specific role model that inspired me in entrepreneurship, but I am always inspired when I read about I'm suddenly blanking on what this is, the woman who's the Proverbs 31 woman. And just all the descriptions of her and how she's cooking for her family and sewing for her family and investing in real estate.
Absolutely.
And I always it's so, I would say, it really kind of puts my mind at ease, because sometimes I wonder should I be doing this? Maybe I should just stay home with my kids and not work and let my husband do the money things. And then I read that and I'm like, no, this model woman, she was out there. She was financially savvy. She was investing in real estate. She had these business ventures going on, and God said that was a good thing. So, it just is, puts my mind at ease that it's okay. And yeah, so I would say that she is a role model that I have in the Bible.
That's awesome. So do you have any favorite verses that you go to, say you're facing something, you're challenged, or there's anxiety building up in you? Is there a favorite verse that you kind of bring to your mind to calm yourself?
I can't honestly say that I have a favorite verse that I bring to mind in those situations. Like I said, oftentimes when it's actually a trial that I feel that I would need comfort, the reason I'm needing it so much is because I'm not relying on the scripture enough. And so it really comes back to me having to reorient my mind towards God and his promises. And when I do that, it's typically coming back to the Psalms and just reading copious amounts of the Psalms to really dwell on God's greatness and his glory, and see how small my problems are and how able God is to take care of me. I will tell you that I had a verse that I used to repeat. And the verse, it's just a portion of a verse. It's just that this too shall pass. And it's mentioned a few times. And so I thought, okay, well, I can get through anything for a time. So whether it's a hard workout at the gym or it's, running out of money or whatever it is, or my child is having a temper tantrum. Okay, this too shall pass. This too shall pass. This too. And I finally decided that that was not a good thing to be clinging to, because I really needed it to be able to find that joy in the moment, that joy through Christ in the moment, you know, whether I'm washing the dishes, as you mentioned, or I'm doing a hard workout, or I'm writing a blog post that's taking longer than I want it to, rather than trying to grit my teeth and bear it and, you know, just focus on, I'm going to get through this. Instead, I need to like focus on it and really find the joy that I can find in it and find what's good in it.
So talk about your spiritual disciplines, and also talk about what disciplines in general helped you to become the person that you are today.
Okay. So as I mentioned before, I find that the more structured my schedule is, the more I'm able to fit in spiritual disciplines. And so I would say that one of the most important disciplines itself is simply maintaining a schedule, an orderly schedule, and that allows space for daily Bible reading and daily prayer, and things like that. So, but those things almost happen automatically. So I wouldn't say that they are as much of a discipline. They're more something I choose to do, you know, that I happily choose to do, if I maintain the discipline of keeping an organized schedule, you know, which can be extremely detailed or can be more relaxed, but just having some sense of order, some routines, some habits to build upon. And then another discipline that is very not discipline sounding, but I think is very important, is the discipline of having Christ-like friends and choosing to spend the majority of your social time with those Christ-like friends rather than with other people. Of course, there's all sorts of people we could spend time with, and I have some friends who are Christians and some friends who aren't, but I really find that prioritizing spending the time with the people who bring me closer to God does a whole lot more than a lot of other things could. And then you were asking about other disciplines that have got me to where I am. It's a hard question, I would say, because I don't tend to maintain a specific discipline for a long period of time. So like for a time, I'll be waking up early and then I'll decide, okay, this isn't serving me as well anymore. And so now I need to, you know, maybe move that wake up time a little bit later so that I can prioritize my sleep, so that I can, you know, have more patience with my kids, sort of thing. And so it's a constant process of adjusting. So I would say that the key discipline, again, this isn't a very disciplinary discipline, but would be always looking for ways to improve, which doesn't always look like better exactly, but better, and being open to change and being willing to change. So just being flexible, but at the same time working on improving in all aspects of my life. It's something that, I mean, when I say all aspects of my life, I really do mean that. Everything from like, how can we work on improving our diet and eating healthier? And, you know, sometimes that's a priority, and then sometimes something else takes priority, so that kind of slips away. Maybe we lose some ground there. So then I come back to that, and I'm again working on improving that. Or with my YouTube videos, you know, I do really think that that is one of the key things that has contributed to my YouTube channel's growth, is just that with every video, I've worked to make it better than the last, and I'm always looking for ways I can improve. And when I'm watching other people's videos, I'm always thinking about what I like about their videos and how I could incorporate that into mine, what I can learn from them, really. And so it's, I don't know if it would really be classified as a discipline, but I do think that that is the habit that has gotten me as far as I have gone. Not that I don't still have an enormous amount of room for growth, but I think that that is the thing that's taken me to where I am. That, coupled with a belief that I'm capable of figuring out whatever I need to be able to figure out in order to accomplish what I need to. So it's not that I set goals and then I say, surely I'm confident I can reach that goal. I don't know if I can reach that goal, but I'm pretty sure I can figure out what I need to figure out, that I can learn. I'm capable of learning whatever I need to learn in order to accomplish what I want to accomplish.
That's interesting what you said, because although you don't consider it as a discipline, you are just aware enough to go along with the ebb and flow of life and adjust to it, not in the sense of I'm going to do this, I'm going to wake up every morning at 5 o'clock on the dot and this is how it's going to be, but you're just aware to follow what your body needs or what the business needs or how you need to improve. And I think that is in a bigger sense the discipline that you maintain, whether it's improving on your videos or improving on your own personal life, just that awareness that comes forefront of every decision.
Yeah, I would say absolutely. Leaning on your intuition, but still having a set of principles. So you're not just doing whatever you feel like, right? But within a set of principles that you're living within, you're being guided by your intuition as to what maybe you need to prioritize, what you need to focus on at any given moment, what you can work on improving.
That's awesome. So that ends my questions, but do you have any resources that you want to offer my audience, or any links that you want me to put in the description for the resources that you have that might help them?
Well, if anyone wants to learn more about working for themselves, then my YouTube channel is a great place to start. I'm sure you'll include a link down below. You can find it on YouTube just by Googling my name on YouTube. You know what I mean, by searching my name on YouTube, Gillian Perkins, or by going to my website, gillianperkins.com. There are countless resources there. You can find my YouTube channel there. You can also find blog articles. And we have some free resources that can help you figure out what business to start, or how to get your own business started if that's something that you're interested in doing.
Well, thank you so much. This has been really fun to getting to know you a little bit better. I'm sure people would see a different angle from this interview.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you so much for having me. And I appreciated getting to talk about some things that normally don't really fit within the context of what I am talking about when I create content online. So it's nice to talk about these things that are very meaningful and very important to me. So thank you so much for having me.
You are welcome. And one more thing is, although your channel is not faith-based channel, or it doesn't necessarily teach about Christian content, I kind of feel like you are helping a lot of people in ministry or faith-based channels to kind of step out and do the thing that's been on their heart. I mean, for me, I wanted to start a YouTube channel, I mean, forever, but the step-by-step action plans and the courage you give and the coaching you give in Startup Society has been phenomenal. So thank you so much. It's an honor and a pleasure to have you here.
Yes, thank you so much again. I really appreciate that.
You are welcome.
Thank you so much for watching. If you're new here, my name is Sam. I create content on living intentionally victorious life through faith. I'm also a certified coach with the John Maxwell team. Please consider subscribing to my channel. I make videos every single week on intentionally living a life of faith. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you again in the next video.